Hi guys, another macro video for you today. I'm going to talk about making meals so they can fit into your macronutrients. What I have in front of me is actual macros that I've given you guys for your meals. So you might find something that will fit perfectly into your macros. If you don't like the meal, I'm sorry, I did my best. But what we're gonna start off with is just the basics again with macros. So protein, that's gonna be your meats, your cheese, your eggs. Egg whites are really good. Tofu, edamame, seitan, all those things. Beans do have some protein as well. And your carbohydrates are going to be beans again, because beans do have carbohydrates. Your fruit, your vegetables. I personally do not count non-starchy vegetables, so if you have one of my plans, you don't need to count broccoli and tomatoes and all of that. All right, but what you do need to count would be potatoes, peas, corn. Those do count as a carbohydrate because they do have more carbs than non-starchy vegetables. And bread, pasta, those are all carbohydrates. Want you guys to stop thinking that carbs are bad. They're not, they're good. You just have to have them in moderation. If I were to have this whole package of bread in one sitting, that's not gonna be good. I'm gonna feel bloated, I'm gonna feel horrible. If I had a whole package of chicken, I'd feel the same exact way. So, or even broccoli. So let's cut the crap that carbs are bad. They're not, they're great. You just have to find what you like. And fat, that's gonna be your oils, guacamole, avocados, peanut butter. Peanut butter is very high in fat. Very good, but very high in fat. So these are things that you just have to watch out how much the portions that you're having. And just like with any diet or anything in life, you have to have a moderate amount. You can't overdo it. So that's what macro counting is about. So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna start off with breakfast. I'm not sure whose plan I have for breakfast. I didn't write that down. But for breakfast, the macros that we're gonna follow is we're gonna attempt to get 30 grams of protein, 45 grams of carbohydrates, and 10 grams of fat. So a typical breakfast, I would say most people like to have eggs. So that's actually what we're gonna do today. So we're gonna have eggs with some cheese, and let's go over it. Okay, so the way that I like to go about this is I like to write down my goal for my meal. So I'm gonna write down my goal, and I'm gonna write down basically everything that I'm gonna have. And I'm going to start off with the serving size that I would like to use, and then I'm gonna maneuver based on that. So first and foremost, we're having eggs, so we would want to have a decent amount. So I'm gonna do probably like 3 servings of these egg whites. You only get 5 grams of protein per serving, which is great, but you need a lot if you're gonna get 30 grams of protein in. So I know I'm gonna do a decent amount of this, and then my cheese also has some protein as well, so I'm gonna have to account for that. And that's primarily all that's gonna give me protein. Not adding in meat to this. If you want to, you can maneuver things around. So what I'll do is I'm gonna take my egg whites, and I'm going to attempt to get about, we'll do 25 grams of protein from it, because 1 serving of cheese has 6 grams of protein. So I'm gonna take my cheese. I know I only wanna do 1 serving, so whatever makes a serving of that, and I'm gonna write that down. So cheese, protein has 6 grams. And if something doesn't have nutrition facts on it, so if you're using eggs or chicken and it doesn't have a label on it like this does, what you could do instead is look online too. The internet is a great source. You could just write whatever you're looking for and nutrition, which we're gonna do. So for my cheese, my carbohydrates, there are 2 carbs, and my fat is 9. So my goal is 10 grams of fat, so that's actually gonna be all the fat for that. So I actually can't use eggs, a real egg in that case, because eggs do have 5 grams of fat in it. You probably can't see that. So moving on, we're gonna fill in the rest with our egg whites. So, like I said, I'm gonna try to get 25 grams of protein from my egg whites. That ends up being 5 servings. So 5 serving of egg whites. So what I do is I write down how many servings I'm gonna have. So for cheese, by 1, egg whites, that's by 5. And I write down the totals here. So my protein's finished, my fat is finished. So all I need is carbohydrates now. So something that is mostly carbs is gonna be fruit. So I'm gonna fill in a piece of fruit. So I have bananas here. So let's look up to see how much is in a banana. So I'm gonna type banana nutrition. And in a banana, I have 27 grams of carbohydrates. And my goal is 45 grams. So that's not enough. I need more carbohydrates. So what I could do now is maybe have some berries as well. Or maybe just berries. So we have 2 options, depending on what you have and what might be going bad. I know I have that issue. That's food sit too long. Alright, so 1 cup of berries is going to be 21 grams of carbohydrates. So what I can do is have 1 banana and 1 cup of berries, or I could have 2 cups of berries. So it's up to you on how you're feeling that day. So essentially what I would do is take the total of all these, make sure they add up. The carbs is a little bit over if I have a banana and the berries, but not by much. What I could do is have 3/4 of a cup of berries plus the banana, or just the 2 cups of the berries. So I'm gonna have 1 serving of cheese, 1/4 cup, in my 5 servings of egg whites, plus 2 cups of berries, or a cup of berries and a banana. And what I like to do is I always write these down in a journal or something, so I have them for the future, just in case I need something quick, or if I want to change it up and go back to this eventually. So write it down, keep notes of it. You can put it on a file on your computer, and that's that. So let's get on to our snack. So for my snack today, my goal is 15 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs, and 10 grams of fat. So I wrote that down, and basically what I'm trying to get to today. First and foremost, yogurt. This is a great snack. Greek yogurt is very high in protein. You are going to be trying to get a lot of protein when you're counting your macros. So I always look for the thing with the highest protein first, and I go based off that. Especially for me, it's hard to get protein, so that's what I kind of have to go over. If you are somebody that's been cutting out carbs and you really don't like carbs and you have a hard time getting them in, that might be what you have to prioritize for you. So you might want to start with something like bread and make your meal based on that. So back to what we're talking about. So I wrote down everything that I wanted to have. So I always have yogurt. It's high in protein. Typically I'll add raisins or something sweet to it. And I like to use PB2, but I only have peanut butter here, and I'm sure most of you only do, so so I just grabbed peanut butter instead. So what I was doing off camera is I was trying to figure out the macros. So I took my raisins, and in raisins there are 31 grams of carbohydrates, which would be too much. So I took half of that, so half a serving, which would be 1/8 of a cup, and I wrote that down. So right here, half raisins. And then as I was going through, I realized I don't have any fat. So essentially, what can I put into yogurt that is high in fat that would be good? I'm not gonna put avocado. I don't wanna put oil. I could have grabbed a full fat yogurt, but I don't have that. So I improvised, grabbed peanut butter. Peanut butter is really high, well, it's fairly high in fat. So what I'm going to do instead of having that half a serving of raisins is I'm going to have half a serving of peanut butter. So I wrote that down here, and you can see my raisins are still written up here, so I'm going to cross those out. So now I have 17 grams of protein. That's a 6, 12 grams of carbs, so a little low on the carbs, and 8 grams of fat. So what I could do if I need to get those carbs in, or if I want to get the extra couple of raisins on top to even that out. So I want to be able to do half of a serving, because that's going to give me too many carbohydrates. I would probably have to end up doing like an 1/8 of a serving, which is fine. You can also add some berries on top as well. Berries are, they do give you a little bit more for what they are. So I could probably have, let's see, 1 cup of berries has 21 grams, and I need 6. So I'd have 1/4 of that. So that is an option as well. So what your snack is 1 Greek yogurt, fat-free, half a serving of peanut butter with raisins sprinkled on it, or instead of the raisins, you can have 1/4 cup of fruit, berries. So I think that's a really great snack. It's got the protein, it's gonna help to hold you over, and it's really easy to do just on the fly if you're at work. So there's your snack. Now moving on to lunch. All right, moving on to lunch. One of my favorite things to do is to have a taco bowl. So kind of like a Chipotle bowl, but something you make at home that's much cheaper. So what I always do with this is I have some sort of meat. So today we're gonna be using chicken. I like to use rice. I'm always at the gym and I don't have a stove there, so I have to microwave everything. So this is what I use, but you are more than welcome to go ahead and make your own rice. It does have some beans in it and corn as well, and seasoning. So I use this one, and then I also use cheese. I typically use fat-free cheese, but right now I don't have it. But for this recipe, you will need fat-free cheese. So what we're gonna do is we're going to write down all of our totals, and I already went through all of this. And your chicken probably doesn't have nutrition facts on it, so what you're gonna do first is you're gonna look that up. So just go on Google, type chicken nutrition. It does have 38 grams of protein, and we're looking for 30, so we're gonna have to do less. So what I did is I just did half a serving, so that'd be half a cup of chicken. And then it does have 8 grams of fat per half a serving, so you're gonna have to account for that as well. There are some meal plans that you don't count the fat in the chicken. So if you're on that meal plan, don't count the fat in the chicken. Add guacamole to this instead, or use the regular cheese. Okay, so back to this. The rice, oh, and then for the chicken, there's no carbohydrates, so I just wrote an X. So for the rice, there is 6 grams of protein, 37 grams of carbohydrates, and 3 grams of fat. So that was for 1 serving. So I get to have 1 serving of rice. I'm also gonna add lettuce into this, and tomatoes, and a bunch of vegetables, but I don't need to count that. And then for my cheese, like I said, I'm gonna use fat-free. I'm gonna use 1 serving of that. And that has 2 grams of protein. I'm sorry, this is backwards for me. 6 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbs, and 0 fat. So you can write a 0 or an X, whatever you want to do. It's your world. So that's what I'm going to have. And I'm going to write down the totals here. You could tell I'm a little off from what I wanted to be, but it's by 1 gram. And remember, all of your meals, you're going to be a little over or under. If you are only like 3 to 5 grams over or under, it's not the end of the world. Try to keep it close to that 3 gram range. But if you're over 10 grams, then that's when you really have to change something. And when you are just starting, it's not the end of the world if you're over 10 grams. Change something in your next meal if you need to, if you make that much of a difference. Also, if you want to have dinner with your significant other one night and you want to save some of your macros, save it from your snack from the morning. That's totally okay. Make this work for you. Okay. All right, we went off track. Dinner time. So I'm really bad at coming up with meals with meat because I don't eat meat. So I was gonna think of something fun. So I thought barbecue chicken. So I'm gonna add this in, but it just ended up working out perfectly. So for barbecue chicken, you would need 2 pieces to fit these macros for 30 protein, 20 carbs, 10 fat. So I think this is pretty funny, and this could be good for you guys if that's your macros, or you can alter it too. Add some, I don't know, corn to it if you need more carbs. All right, so 1 piece of barbecue chicken has 4.2 grams of fat, so 4 grams of fat, 10 grams of carbs, 15 grams of protein. So double that, and you are at exactly what you need to be. Isn't that amazing? Look at, sometimes it's just that easy. Okay, so like I said, I can't think of a meal for meat eaters, so I found one. So we're going to just learn about kind of like looking at a recipe and how to change it. So our recipe is 30-minute sesame mango chicken teriyaki. And I will put the link for this in the description below so you guys can access that. It's by Pinch of Yum, so credit to them for this one. All right, so here is our recipe that we're going to be going over. So the great thing is these recipes online, they do always tend to have nutrition facts. So honestly, if I'm going to make something online, or if I find a recipe online that I want to make, I look right down to see if it has nutrition facts, and if it doesn't, I find one similar that has nutrition facts. It just makes it a lot easier, so you can fit into your macros, and so you know what you're eating too. So what we're going to do is look at these and compare to our macros. So for dinner, our goal is 30 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs, so I can already tell that's too high, but it seems like that's mostly sugar, so maybe there's something in there that I could take out that has some sugar to it. Mango has sugar, probably the mango, and then 5 grams of carbs, and I need 10. So I can either add in extra oil while I'm making this, or almost anything. So, well, not almost anything, anything with fat. Let's go back up to the recipe and look here. So for the teriyaki sauce, it looks like it's going to be dates, which dates are carbs, and they do have sugar, which is normal for a fruit and completely healthy. So I don't really want to mess with the sauce because that sounds like something that I could easily mess up. So I'm going to look at everything else because I know that this has mango in it. So this had 50 grams of carbs and we need 20. So 2 to 3 cups of frozen mango chunks. So, and for that rice, you can use cauliflower rice too, by the way. Let's take a look at mango. All right, so 1 cup of mango has 25 grams of carbohydrates in it, whereas we are going to be using 2 to 3 cups. So honestly, the nutrition facts on this recipe aren't exact because the recipe isn't exact. So what I would do for this recipe is I would have only 1 cup. But the thing is, this is for 8 servings, 6 to 8 servings. 1 serving. Okay, so nutrition is for 8 servings. So essentially this is 8 servings. So that's a lot of math. You'd have to take 2 cups divided by 8. What we're going to do is we're going to keep it simple. That is the one thing you need to remember. So make half of the teriyaki sauce and use half of the mango. And voila! Look at that. It will fit your macros perfectly. So I'm going to put this in the description. I hope you enjoy it. And here's just a little close-up of all of my notes of what we talked about. So CHO, that means carbs. That's just my way of writing carbs. Just in case you wanted a little something. I typically do the totals and I write that on every single meal I make, and I keep every single meal I make in a journal so I don't have to do this all the time. So do it once, do it right, write it down, and never have to figure this out again for that meal. Unless your macros change, which is always fun. So I hope you guys got a lot out of that, or at least something. At least you understand the basics of this a little bit better. This is something that's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be able to learn this overnight. Try. You're going to fail. That's okay. Keep it simple in the beginning. Broccoli with chicken and rice, or steak and potatoes. Anything like that. So I will send you out a list of proteins and a list of carbs and a list of fats. I'm pretty sure you already have that. So take a look at that again, especially when you're doing this. It'll make it a lot simpler. Don't overdo it. Don't start off with a crazy recipe. This one was easy because it almost fit our macros. You just have to cut the sauce in half. And again, we could have went through and we could have figured out how to completely change this recipe and maneuver the amount of dates and mangoes and flour you're putting in, but who the hell wants to do that? Keep it simple. That's pretty much it. So I hope this helped in some way, and I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.